All right, welcome back into Rasslin. This is episode 9 of Rasslin, and it is our third guest that we've had. And I told you when we got into this game, we weren't just limping into it. I told you that what we're doing with Rasslin here at Barstool is we're not feeding into the constant online negativity where everybody wants to rebook everything and everybody wants to complain. No, I have loved wrestling my entire life, and I want to bring on guests that reflect that. Well, what bigger guest to have than the current WWE champion? I'm, of course, talking about Drew McIntyre, who's headed to the Rumble this Sunday for a huge title defense against Goldberg. Let me welcome him in now. It's WWE champion Drew McIntyre. Drew, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so we got the Rumble this week, and your story has been told so often and so much, and a lot of people know it, but I want to go back to this moment 1 year ago because everybody knows you went on to Mania and you won the title for the first time. But breaking through and winning the Royal Rumble was a gigantic step in that process to winning the title. What was it like going into that? It seems like a long time ago because the stadium was full. What was it like going to that full stadium and winning the Royal Rumble?
Well, it was unbelievable. I didn't have any indication, that day was going to go as well as it went. I was on a bit of a rise over those last few months leading up to Royal Rumble last year, where I was kind of showing the world my real personality for the first time on the microphone, being very interactive with the crowd, just getting to be myself. But when the bell rang, still kicking butt like Drew McIntyre always does. And started getting on a bit of a roll. We got to Royal Rumble, and not only did I end up winning the whole thing, like you said, but I got to eliminate Brock Lesnar, who had single-handedly eliminated half the Royal Rumble by himself, was the current WWE champion. And I remember marching out there, and like I've told this a couple of times, it's maybe not the best analogy, but to me, I remember Stars Born was a big movie of the time, and I remember Lady Gaga was at the side of the stage as Bradley Cooper kind of sang her song, and you saw that kind of moment she was having with herself, like it's now or never kind of feeling. And that's how I felt right before I walked out of the Royal Rumble. Like, I've been doing this so long, so many ups, so many downs. Drew's the future, the future, the future. I was so worried that one day it'd be Drew's the past. I never got to become the present. And that moment when I marched out, I was like, it's time to become the present right now. Knocked Brock out. 40,000 people went crazy. Continued throughout the Rumble. Got to the very end. Edge returned after 9 years, been on the shelf. Thought to myself while I was in the Rumble, oh no, we've heard the crowd turn on the Royal Rumble before and boo the winner if they don't get what they want. And Edge just returned after 9 years. I was there when he retired, and he's back. This is such a crazy moment for me, and also obviously for the fans in the building. But when I inevitably won the Rumble, eliminated Roman Reigns last, heard 40,000 people go crazy, it was the coolest moment of my career at that point. I literally lost the ability to walk, not just because I was really tired. It was so overwhelming emotionally to actually be standing there, the Royal Rumble winner, pointing to the WrestleMania sign, the fireworks going off, knowing I'd compete for the title at WrestleMania. Little did we know it would end up the way it ended up, of course.
So you had a long road to the title, a famously long road to the title. But when you got that Rumble, did you feel like, okay, this is the stamp that I am here now. I'm gonna go to WrestleMania. I'm gonna take care of my business. But now that I've got this Rumble, I belong on this stage.
Yeah, I felt like I belonged in that stage for a long time, especially when I returned to WWE. A new man, I'd been a top guy all across the world, had grown multiple different companies, grown business all across the world, was ready to do it in WWE and be the number one guy. But the truth is, it was leading up to the Rumble where I finally put those final pieces together that I really needed from a character perspective. And once the crowd got behind me for just being myself, then I realized, now you're ready. And when I won that Rumble, got a stamp of approval for management. But the truth is, it was the fans that put me there in the first place. Their reactions, their belief in me has put me in the position for management to say, okay, we're going to give Drew the ball, see how far he can carry it. And from that moment on, I refused to let that ball drop.
So a lifelong fan of wrestling, of WWE, the Royal Rumble is and always will be my favorite event. I just love the chaos of the Royal Rumble. I love it. And I know it sets up WrestleMania, which is everybody's favorite event, but I just love the Royal Rumble. You are a lifelong fan. What are some of the memories of Royal Rumbles past that you have that kind of drove you as a fan?
I've got so many Royal Rumble memories. One of the big ones is we think about two guys going out at the same time, like Bret Hart, Lex Luger, 94, or Batista and Cena, which wasn't supposed to happen the 1 year. So when you're actually winning a Rumble and you think back to some of my memories like that happening, I was very conscious not to go over the top rope and put myself in any precarious positions where I might accidentally eliminate myself when I was going to win the Rumble. So when this past Rumble last year, that was what was going through my head, being a lifelong fan, is moments like that. But, there's like some cool moments when I was a kid. Like I remember Hulk Hogan throwing out Mr. Perfect at the very end is like my earliest Royal Rumble memory. And it's an event, much like yourself, that I looked forward to every year. My brother and I would sit awake till 1 o'clock in the morning in Scotland and sit there the night before school, so excited to watch the Royal Rumble because it was, one of our favorite event along with WrestleMania 2.
So this Sunday at the Royal Rumble 2021 edition, you will not be in the Rumble itself. You will be defending the WWE Championship against Goldberg. Goldberg, another guy who, back in the day, obviously he had the streak back in '98. He had the huge rise to prominence. I'll ask you about the match in just a second, but were you a fan of Goldberg growing up?
Yeah. I remember, I was my favorite wrestler was Goldberg, but I loved watching Goldberg. I even worked it into my interview last week. And my brother and I used to look forward to just seeing who Goldberg was going to decimate that week. We were like, oh my goodness, what idiot's going to get in the ring with Goldberg this week and getting taken out in 2 minutes. He was such an anomaly. Even though we're big WWE fans, we checked out WCW too, watched ECW as well. But WCW, the thing we looked forward to most was seeing Goldberg's match that week. And the way WCW kind of was at the time, it wasn't exactly designed to succeed within the system. Most people there are kind of been a top guy in WWE or whatever. Not many people aside, my goodness, I can pretty much just name DDP and Goldberg, kind of made it within the system there. And he was just such a force of nature. So exciting to watch during the time. It is absolutely mental. And I'm going to fight him for the WWE Championship in 2021.
Well, that was my next question. I mean, you are the champion now, and you're going into this defending, but is it kind of surreal that you'll be standing looking across the ring at Goldberg? I mean, you get to the top. Orton's always going to be there, and certain top guys are always going to be there right now coming for that title, but Goldberg kind of comes out of nowhere this year and challenges you for the title. Is it surreal for you to be looking across the ring at him?
Yeah. I never thought I'd get the opportunity to be across the ring from Goldberg ever in my career, and I'm so glad that I'm getting that opportunity. I know a lot of people, maybe socially, have a certain opinion about Goldberg kind of walking in and getting title matches, but the truth is, he's such a gigantic name. He does bring eyeballs in. They're perhaps lapsed from wrestling, or perhaps I've never watched wrestling. They want to check out. My goodness, I remember that Bill Goldberg. I want to see what's going on there. And because he's on the show, a lot of people will watch the show. They'll see our current superstars, and hopefully that will force them to continue to watch because they'll be so entertained. But for me, getting in there with Goldberg, a few matches we've seen him in recently haven't been, the best. Let's be honest. And I really feel where I'm at in my career, the way I wrestle, the way Bill wrestles, the way we both think, I've got to know him pretty well over the past few years. I genuinely believe we can give everybody a big surprise and a very compelling, competitive match.
Well, all his matches recently, the good ones and the ones that maybe haven't been so good, they're all quick, they're physical, they're big bang moves right off the top. You said last night you feel like you could put him down in 2 minutes on your promo on Raw. Do you think this is going to be a very fast, very physical match from the top?
From the top, it's absolutely going to be fast and physical. Like I said last night, I talk about, finding myself fighting the character. The character is just basically Drew and what Drew really thinks. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling the truth. When Goldberg came out, he kind of ran his mouth off about me not respecting the legends. And, I might not have said it, but it's what I was thinking. And I keep bringing it up. I brought it up 2 weeks ago. I brought it up last week. Is because I was like, come on, man. I'm literally the guy who defended the legends from the legend killer, Randy Orton. That's just lies. And I brought it up just to let him know and the world know, come on, just don't say silly stuff. Let's treat this like a true life. And the truth is, that's nonsense. And the truth is, I didn't believe a word you said. And I don't think you believed a word you said. I can see it in people's eyes when they don't believe what they're saying. But when I compared him to fighting my dad and he shoved me in my ass, and then I looked up and I saw the look in his eyes, I went, that's Goldberg. Don't give me that crap. You're trying to play mind games or crappy mind games or that's never been Goldberg's strong suit. Playing the mind games or the verbal skills. His strong suit is decimating people, destroying people. When I saw that look in his eyes, when he pushed me down, I got back up in his face. I pretty much whispered in his ear as I was in his face, this is Goldberg. This is what I wanted the Rumble. Because if you don't bring this guy, if you bring the guy who talks about the lack of respect or any other nonsense, I will destroy you in 2 minutes, Goldberg style.
I love it. All right, so this Sunday is the Royal Rumble. It's Drew McIntyre and Goldberg in a title match. But, Drew, as the WWE champion, it could fall upon you to go to WrestleMania if you're able to get through Goldberg, it could fall upon you to fight the winner at WrestleMania in Tampa. So looking at the Royal Rumble from Drew McIntyre's perspective, who do you look at maybe that has their breakout Drew McIntyre moment and wins this Rumble?
Ooh, that's a good one.
There's a lot of great storylines, a lot of great characters, a lot of guys that are close to breaking through that, wherever to get to that next level.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about last year, and I hope, it happens again this year, somebody you don't expect. I think a lot of years it's kind of somebody that, okay, I could have saw them winning it, or, oh my goodness, it was so obvious this person was going to win it. That's what made the Rumble special, when I was younger, we were younger, when someone like Shawn Michaels won it, and you just did not see it coming. They were like, oh my goodness, Shawn Michaels did it. My goodness, he's going to go to WrestleMania, someone fresh at the top of the card. And I think that's what the Royal Rumble is all about. Who's been putting in the work, who's been putting in the performances, who are the crowd digging right now. And I think there's a few names you can certainly list, but one who's finally kind of doing what we've all been expecting him to do for a long time, especially this past month, is like a Big E. And I know he's Intercontinental Champion right now, but I could certainly see him winning the Rumble and going on to challenge myself for Roman Reigns for the WWE Universal title.
That would be incredible. I have a couple of other guys I want to ask you in just a second. Before I get to that, though, WWE made the announcement recently that we know where the next 3 WrestleManias are going to be. WrestleMania 37 will be, they're kind of running it back in Tampa. It was going to be there last year in the stadium, but now it will be in Tampa. You'll have Dallas for 38. You will have LA, Los Angeles for 39. But going back to WrestleMania 37, and last year you had your big moment in the most unique WrestleMania ever. Now, with WrestleMania coming back to Tampa, do you feel like there's a little bit of unfinished business for you because you didn't get that big stadium moment? And I don't know what Mania will look like as far as the stadium goes this year, but it will be in Tampa, and you will have a chance to go back to Mania and maybe run it back.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously the way it went down last year, didn't expect it, but I'm very proud of that moment, one of the proudest moments of my career, giving the world an escape. During the height of the pandemic, no other sports going on, no other game in town. WWE gave the world WrestleMania over 2 days, with 14 million social media interactions over 2 days, up 60% from the year prior. Such crazy positive feedback. And I won the WWE title and gave them a happy ending. That's amazing. That'll be my WrestleMania moment, and the WrestleMania that time stood still. Mm-hmm. But I am kind of glad we get a take 2.
Right.
Tampa, I'm sitting 15 minutes from Raymond James Stadium. It's my American hometown. There's going to be a limited crowd there. Everybody should keep their ears to the ground, because we're going to start releasing more information over the coming weeks about how to get those tickets, the safety protocols, how many is going to be available. It's going to be the hottest ticket in town, and the crowd are going to be electric. And I plan to take the WWE Championship all the way to WrestleMania. So it's so appropriate. I won it last year at Mania. I only lost it for 3 weeks. I've essentially had it since Mania. I plan to keep it from Mania to Mania aside that 3 weeks, walk out in front of the crowd, hold this thing up, and have my WrestleMania moment in front of a crowd and say, what a year. Here's our freaking wrestling moment. We're back.
Man, that's going to be absolutely incredible. So I want to – that belt looked amazing, by the way. You had the belt through the toughest year in wrestling history. You were given the ball, and you ran with it in the toughest year in really sports, that we've all faced. The pandemic, I mean, it's affected everybody. But how proud are you of the fact that you not only got the belt during that time, but you carried it and carried it very, very well?
Yeah, it's my life's dream, my life's work. And the only reason I've been able to perform and the level I'm able to perform at and not let any obstacles slow me down is because of that journey that I've been on. Like every single difficult time, every single negative time in my life, every time I was knocked on my ass and I thought this is the end of the world, it wasn't. Everything was a lesson on the way to prepare me to become the champion during any time, including uncharted waters, including the pandemic. And as soon as I won the title, I didn't think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I thought, all right, what's next? What are we going to do? Let's try things that have never been tried before, because we're in uncharted waters. I was the first person looking down the camera, breaking the fourth wall, throwing things against the wall, see if they stuck, busting out Tiger King quotes that my wife dared me to say on TV, right. Hail you cool cats and kittens in segment 1 of the show. And then hopefully the gift would go out there. People would see it. They go, what's going on in the wrestling? Tune over. It's been an interesting time innovating and adapting and finding new ways to reach our fans, like the virtual meet and greets. Our tribute to the Troops show we do once a year, which is very important to us, to give back to our men and women and their families of the armed forces who do so much for us. Usually we go to the base physically. Couldn't be there physically this year. It wasn't going to stop us. We brought the troops into the Thunderdome on all the screens virtually, still was able to put on the show for them. And the biggest thing of all was, our virtual hospital meet and greets. We were able to, pivot with the times, still meet the kids, hear their amazing stories, see their amazing strength, and really get some perspective. Because no matter what you think's going on in your life, how tough things are, when you speak to these kids in the hospital who are dealing with cancer, etc., they're smiling, they're so tough, really puts things into perspective. So I've been so proud of what I've been able to do, the company's been able to do, how I've been able to give back and keep everyone entertained during these times. And bring them the Thunderdome. Thunderdome's pretty cool.
The Thunderdome is pretty cool. Like I never imagined that, like a giant wall of screens. How I've never seen it in person, but is it daunting in there, or is it intimidating, or is it just like this is the way we do business right now?
Yeah, it felt more like this is closer to being back to normal, to be honest. So we're in the performance center, which, was like a warehouse with nobody there. That was really strange. I figure out ways to do, what we do without a crowd there, number one superstar. And we did, and things were fine. But, when we realized it was going to be a while before the crowds came back, that's where we pivoted and, invented and innovated the Thunderdome, where we were able to bring everything you expect from WWE, the lights, the lasers, the pyro, my badass entrance with my sword. I shoot fire out the stage, which we couldn't do for the crowd because we'd set them on fire. But most importantly, having the fans back there virtually on the screens and hearing them in real time. And I know it's real time because I did a test. I was the first guy talking in the Thunderdome. I was about to walk to the ring and I said to our tech guy, is the actual live out there? This is real time? Yes, sure. I went, okay. Never asked permission. I generally just go out there and go with my gut. And I was talking about the Thunderdome, how cool it is. I got the butterflies in my stomach I used to get, coming to the arena and being in the arena and just hearing and feeling the fans. It felt like, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is what WWE's like. So everyone give me a thumbs up. And I turned around and looked at the screens and time stood still. And I thought, he lied to me. It's not real time. There's like a 10-second delay, and 10 seconds on live TV is a really long freaking time. But a split second later, they all stuck up their thumbs at the same time. It was in real time. And in that moment, I thought, all right, now that I know it's real time, this feels like the way it's supposed to feel. This feels like WWE, and we can't have our fans here physically. At least they're here virtually.
Are you ever nervous that you're going to drop the sword or maybe miss your mark? Maybe the sword's not going to go where it's supposed to go?
Yeah.
I get nervous about the sword, man. It's a big sword.
I get nervous about the sword. Like, it's a legit claymore. It's about 5 feet long. It's really heavy. The way I hold it is not the way you're supposed to hold a sword. Like, generally you would hold it by the handle. Obviously, right. I hold it by the handles that extend out at the side, balance the main part with my finger as I lift it up. And then I got to twirl it without stabbing myself in the leg or somewhere else between my legs. And then I got to get it through the stage where it's supposed to go to set off the pyro without looking. So it's certainly been lucky thus far. So the lad that was playing me last week, actually, Miz and Morrison had him out there. I was a bit concerned for him. He had a little sword. He had to get right down there. He had to overcome a few physical things that prevented him from leaning forward.
Sure.
But I was very proud of him for getting down there, getting that sword in there, because it's not easy.
It's probably for the best we're in a pandemic, because you're never going to get that thing through airport security, ever.
I'm going to put it on the truck. I told them already. I was like, if they try to rib me, have a joke with me, and tell me, Drew, you got to bring it on the live events, the non-televised events once we go back on the road. I'll say, okay, well, joke's on the road crew, because they're freaking taking it. I ain't walking through airport security with a 5 foot, 6 foot claymore.
Just think how badass you'd be just walking through an airport with a 6 foot sword.
I mean, I'm already 6'5", 270. As if I don't draw enough attention as it is, then I need a giant sword.
So a couple more questions. We're talking to Drew McIntyre, who will be defending the WWE title this Sunday, January 31st, 7 p.m. Eastern on the WWE Network. He will be going up against Goldberg. Drew, I told you this before the show, but I want to tell you again. I'm a 41-year-old man who's loved this my entire life. I got into it in 1986. My first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 2. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage were gods to me. The Rock, Austin, they were gods to me. And now I have a 12-year-old daughter, and she has really started falling in love with the business. She loves Raw. She loves SmackDown. But Drew McIntyre is far and away her favorite. She loves Drew McIntyre, and she thinks I am the coolest guy on earth right now because I'm talking to you. So I appreciate that. And it's just, that's got to feel incredible to know that there are people out there like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like I mentioned earlier, the only reason I'm in the position I'm in right now is because of my fans, like your daughter out there, kind of believing in me and getting behind me. And I'm very grateful for them because in the end, like yourself, I'm just a lifelong fan who just pursued this thing nonstop, relentlessly, and I never lost that fandom. And I think, the fans see that. is, he's just like us. He might be big and hairy and Scottish, but he's just like us. He just loves this thing, and he's very happy and grateful to be doing it.
Well, you did give me the opportunity to explain to her the difference between English, Scottish, and Irish a couple of weeks ago, because she was like, Sheamus and Drew talk the same, but they don't. I'm like, okay, sit down. I'm going to blow your mind. And we were able to go through the countries of Europe, and I was able to explain some things. And I am going to buy her some Drew McIntyre merch, but I only make minimum wage here at Barstool, so this podcast's got to take off, and then I'll be a guy that buys Drew McIntyre merch. I want to ask
I'll give you a retweet on this one. We'll get the numbers up there.
Yeah, please. I got to ask you about a guy, because I thought you had one of the best matches in recent Raw history a couple of weeks ago when you and Keith Lee just went out there for 20 minutes and beat the crap out of each other. Very physical match. I just love when two big hosses get in there and just go to town on each other, and that's what you and Keith Lee did. What do you think the future holds for Keith Lee? I know he's just getting his feet wet. He's been there for about a year, but when I saw him go head to head with you, I thought these guys could be at the top for a while. What do you think about that match with Keith Lee?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that match, and thank you for the compliments on it. I really wanted to show the world what Keith is truly capable of. He came in hot, defeating Randy Orton, and it's kind of been floating around for a long time. Then he had a really good match with Sheamus the week prior, and I was like, okay, Sheamus he's so physical also in the ring, a big hoss fight. I said, okay, I'm going to take it to the next level. I want to show not just what he can do physically. He's a huge guy. He's very physical. That's cool. But he's an absolute hybrid and anomaly. The athleticism he has for a man that's 340 pounds. And I told him, we're going to pull out some of the big guns. So we hit that Spanish fly, the back flip, front flip from the top rope that we did together. The unique things like shoulder checking me over the barricade like he did to Adam Cole in NXT one time, except I'm a much bigger guy, and actually clearing the barricade just to show how big and powerful Keith is, but at the same time how athletic he is. And he's obviously a big charismatic guy. And this was his chance, and I really wanted to show and felt it was my responsibility as WWE champion that Keith belongs at the top, because he does. And the setting was unbelievable. The main event of Raw with the legends sitting on the stage. Like, I look to my right and I see freaking Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, Booker T, Big Show, just all these legends sitting on the stage watching our WWE title match. I'm WWE champion, which I inevitably win that match. And Keith and I get a little, show respect fist bump at the end where I get to tell him, hey, bro, you belong here, which was such a cool feeling for me. And then freaking Goldberg came out at the end and challenged me. So what a wacky night.
Well, you can take care of that this Sunday at the Royal Rumble on WWE Network. A couple of questions. I'll let you get out of here. You were on Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was about an hour, maybe an hour and a half of you and him just talking the business, talking wrestling. And it's one of my favorite things. When he does that Broken Skull Sessions, it's one of my favorite things because you really get to know a superstar and you get to know about their road. I thought it was a great exhibition, or I thought it was a great conversation between you and him. How surreal is that, though, just to be kicking it with Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yeah, it was mental. He brought up the picture at one point with me lying in my Stone Cold bed sheets when I was a kid. And, I got to keep the straight face. I've still got to speak on the same level. I'm the WWE champion, like where he once was and representing the company, the position that he once did. So, I got to keep my composure during the interview. And it's so cool because Steve's such a personable guy. He's so passionate to this day about the industry. You get two people together that just love this more than anything. We talked for 6 hours straight. They had to edit us down to an hour and 40. And they had to drag me away to literally get my flight because I had media the next day, or I would have just stayed in LA overnight and just kept talking to Steve because he's such a cool guy. And like you say, he gets to show, the other side of the characters that you see on television, and get to show what's really going on inside their head, what makes them tick. And from that conversation, I'm sure everybody saw what makes Drew tick is this industry, just like Stone Cold.
So last question, and I'll let you go. I got Drew McIntyre here, the WWE champion, and this Sunday he will go into the ring to face off with Goldberg for the WWE Championship, 7 p.m. on WWE Network. Drew, obviously what's on your mind first and foremost is getting to this Rumble and getting through and continuing to be the champion. Then you got Mania. But I just got to ask this. This is open-ended. You can go wherever you want. What does the immediate and near future hold for Drew McIntyre?
The immediate future is just exactly what I've been doing. I'm going to continue to represent as WWE champion. I'm going to continue to find new ways to get new eyeballs on the product as the WWE brand ambassador off screen. And on screen, I'm going to continue to build my legacy, which includes this huge match with Goldberg. I'm working my way up. I've done a lot of cool things. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I'm number 2. Number 1 is Drew McIntyre tomorrow, Drew McIntyre next week. I'm constantly in competition with myself, and beating somebody like Goldberg this Sunday at the Rumble is really going to take me to the next level and put me on path where I want to be, which is unlimited. The goals are absolutely endless. Getting the fans back, at Mania, that's a start. That's awesome. That's incredible. Getting back on the road is going to be unbelievable. And then I just can't wait to start putting on shows back on across the world, and getting the UK, their first big significant pay-per-view since SummerSlam 92 is on my list of things to do. But I have an endless things I want to do as WWE champion.
My God, I love SummerSlam 92. It was so awesome. Brett and Davey Boy on top, and just all the way through. And it goes from daylight to dark during the show. What a great show that was.
It's going to happen again. I'm going to make sure of it.
Well, if you bring that back, sign me up for it, because that would be an incredible experience. All right, that is Drew McIntyre. He is the WWE champion. This Sunday, he's going up against Goldberg. Huge match. Drew, thank you very much for helping make this podcast special for our Barstool audience. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. It's been a fun conversation. And hello, your little girl out there, what's her name?
Well, her name is this is perfect. Her name is 12 years old. She's a huge fan. If you could just give her a quick shout. I was going to ask you for it, but if you just do it on the air, go ahead.
No, this one is thank you so much for supporting WWE and Drew McIntyre. You're the reason I'm sitting here WWE champion right now. So, keep believing and keep giving me your feedback, hopefully socially, and eventually things get to normal. We get to a show, we'll get there live, and we'll get a picture together. So
oh my God. Thank you very much. That's Drew McIntyre, WWE champion.